The Girl by Davies. Chapter 1. The Noose Titans. The stars no longer twinkled with innocence. Across the galactic rim, where nebulae once bloomed like cosmic orchids, the enemy fleet had woven a cordon, an iron halo of dread. Their ships, dark and angular, hung in orbit like judgment itself. They did not move quickly. They did not need to. The noose was tightening, and every civilization within the spiral arms of the Milky Way felt its breath growing short. These were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They did not demand surrender, tribute, or allegiance. They simply arrived, encircled, and waited. Their silence was more terrifying than any declaration of war. No emissaries, no broadcasts, just the slow, methodical constriction of space itself. The fleet's defenses were impenetrable, not merely in terms of armor or firepower, though they had both in abundance, but in the realm of biology and identity. Their perimeter was laced with biometric firewalls, so advanced that even the most sophisticated shapeshifters, the most cunning infiltrators, were rendered inert. It was as if the fleet could smell deception, taste impurity, and reject it with surgical precision. On the inner planets, panic had given way to grim resolve. Galactic scientists, once content to debate the ethics of terraforming or the metaphysics of time dilation, now labored in subterranean bunkers. Their mission was singular: find a way in. Not to destroy the fleet from the outside, that was impossible, but to infect it from within. The hive-drive system was their vulnerability. A single command issued from the core processors of the flagship could trigger a cascading self-destruct protocol. But to reach that core, one would need to bypass every biometric lock, every psychic scan, every quantum signature test. Only a biologically pure being could do it. Not pure in the sense of genetics, but in the deeper, older sense, untainted by augmentation, unmodified by ambition, a soul uncorrupted. And so the call went out. Across 1,000 worlds, the message was the same. We seek one who is pure, one who will walk into death for the sake of life. Chapter 2. The Call for Purity. The testing center was a cathedral of silence. Built into the hollowed crust of a dead moon, it had no windows, no ornamentation, only corridors of lightless steel and rooms that hummed with the quiet menace of truth. Here, purity was not a virtue but a metric, and every candidate who entered left behind the illusion that they were chosen. They came in waves, a crystalline being from the ice world of Thalor, whose thoughts could be read like music, a telepathic priest from the floating monasteries of Kanar, who had never spoken aloud in his life, a warrior queen whose bloodline traced back to the first colonists of Mars. Each one stepped forward with pride, with hope, with the belief that they were the answer. Each one failed. The tests were not cruel, but they were final. A flicker of ambition, a shadow of fear, a trace of genetic enhancement. Any deviation from the pure biological baseline triggered rejection. The machines did not explain. They did not console. They simply turned red, and the candidate was escorted out. Janice Galbraith had not intended to volunteer. She had come to observe, to assist, to fulfill a minor assignment for her academy's ethics course. Her instructors had not expected much from her. She was diligent but quiet, intelligent but not exceptional. She had no medals, no commendations. Her file was a whisper in a room full of declarations. She watched the testing with wide eyes and a quiet heart. She did not speak unless spoken to. She took notes. She listened. And then, on the final day, when the last candidate had failed and the scientists were preparing to shut down the program, the xenobiologist from Tiralon noticed her. He had no name, only a designation: Dr. Seven. He had studied purity not as a moral concept, but as a biological anomaly. He believed that the universe occasionally produced beings who were not shaped by power but by possibility. He asked Janice if she would consent to testing. She blinked. Me? You are unmodified, he said, unremarkable, untouched by ambition. That is rare. Janice nodded. I'll do it. The tests began. She sat in the chair, surrounded by scanners that read her DNA, her neural patterns, her emotional resonance. She answered questions, simple, profound, absurd. She was asked to imagine betrayal, to simulate sacrifice, to visualize death. She did not flinch. She did not falter. The machines turned green. Dr. Seven stared at the results. You are pure, he said. Janice shrugged. Okay. The council convened. Military officials, scientists, philosophers, and ethicists gathered in the central chamber. They reviewed the data. They debated. They argued. Some refused to believe it. Others saw it as divine intervention. A few wept. Janice was summoned. She stood before them in her academy uniform, hands at her sides, eyes steady. We have chosen you, the lead general said. You are the only one who can enter the enemy fleet, the only one who can reach the core. Janice nodded. You understand this is a suicide mission? Yes. There will be no communication, no rescue, no return. I understand. Why do you accept? Janice looked at them, her voice soft but unwavering. Because someone has to. The room fell silent. In that moment they saw not a girl but a mirror, reflecting everything they had forgotten about courage. Preparations began. A cloaked scout ship was readied. Schematics of the alien flagship were uploaded. Rations were packed. The self-destruct protocol was encoded into a neural implant, accessible only by Janice's biometric signature. She would leave at dawn, and the galaxy would hold its breath. Chapter 3. The Briefing. The room was shaped like a tear. Not by design, but by erosion, centuries of repurposed architecture, once a ceremonial chamber for the extinct Varnathi, now a war room for the living. Its walls shimmered faintly with residual memory, as if the stone itself mourned what was about to be asked. Janice stood at the center. Around her, the council gathered. Not in rows or ranks, but in a circle, an ancient formation meant to signify equality, though the weight of their titles bent the air. Generals with eyes like gunmetal, scientists whose minds had mapped the curvature of time, ethicists who had debated the soul's geometry, and Dr. Seven, silent as ever, watching her not with hope, but with curiosity. A hologram flickered to life. The alien fleet's flagship rotated slowly in the air, its surface covered in fractal armor that seemed to shift with thought. Janice studied it. She had seen the schematics before, but now they felt intimate, like the contours of a grave she would soon occupy. This is your target, said General Virek, his voice clipped and clinical. The core processor is located here. He pointed to a glowing node deep within the vessel's heart. Once accessed, you will initiate the hive-drive collapse. The fleet will self-destruct. Instantaneously. Janice nodded. You will be alone, said a scientist. The ship is cloaked. No transmissions, no tracking. Once you depart, we will not know your fate. I understand. There is no margin for error, said an ethicist. If you are captured, the fleet will learn of our plan. They will accelerate their attack. I won't be captured. They paused. It was not bravado. It was not defiance. It was a statement of fact, spoken with the clarity of someone who had already died in her mind. Dr. Seven stepped forward. We have encoded the protocol into your neural lattice, he said. It will activate only when you reach the core. You must be conscious. You must be willing. Janice met his gaze. I will be. The council fell silent. There was nothing left to say. No ceremony. No farewell. Only the quiet logistics of departure. Janice turned to leave, but before she reached the door, General Virek spoke again. "Cadet Galbraith." She stopped. "You are not obligated to do this. You were not bred for sacrifice. You were not trained for martyrdom. You are a girl." Janice turned slowly. "I am a girl," she said, "and that is why I'm the right choice." The door opened. She walked through it, and the galaxy for a moment felt the tremor of something ancient stirring, something that had nothing to do with war or science or prophecy, something like grace. Chapter 4. Into Silence. The scout ship was smaller than she expected. It resembled a seed more than a vessel, smooth, dark, and unassuming, designed not to be seen but to slip between the folds of perception. Its hull was coated in adaptive camouflage, its engines silent as breath. It had no weapons, no escape pods, no voice. Janice stepped aboard without ceremony. There were no crowds, no salutes, no final speeches, only Dr. Seven, who handed her a small vial of nutrient gel and a folded piece of paper. "What's this?" she asked. "A letter," he said. "From me. To you. For after." Janice tucked it into her uniform. She did not ask what he meant by after. There was no after, only the mission. The hatch sealed behind her. Inside, the ship was bare, one seat, one console, one sleeping pod. A small compartment held rations, water, and a single photograph. A picture of Earth taken from orbit, its blues and greens blurred by distance. She sat in the pilot's chair. The console lit up, responding to her biometric signature. Coordinates were already programmed. The flagship's location pulsed like a heartbeat on the screen. She pressed launch. The ship lifted, silent as prayer, and slipped into the void. Outside, stars wheeled past in slow procession. Inside, Janice felt time stretch and thin, like fabric pulled too tight. She was alone now, not just physically, but existentially. No signals, no surveillance, no tether to the world she had left behind. She ate her first ration. It tasted like her training academy, bland, functional, but strangely comforting. She chewed slowly as if savoring the last act of normalcy. Then she lay down in the sleeping pod, closed her eyes, and waited for sleep. It came easily, not because she was tired, but because she had made peace. Her thoughts did not race. Her heart did not pound. She dreamed of water, still, deep, and endless. She floated in it, neither sinking nor swimming, just being. An alarm woke her. She opened her eyes. The console glowed red. Proximity alert. She was close. Janice sat up, adjusted her uniform, and stared at the screen. The alien flagship loomed ahead, vast, intricate, and impossibly quiet. Its surface shimmered with patterns that defied geometry, as if the ship itself were thinking. She studied the schematics one last time. The maintenance hatch was located beneath the central spine. She maneuvered the scout ship into position, engaging the cloaking field. The ship docked with a soft click, like a key entering a lock. Janice stood. She checked her laser pistol, though she knew it would be useless. She wasn't here to fight. She was here to end. She opened the hatch and stepped into the corridor. It was empty. No guards, no alarms, no resistance. The walls pulsed faintly, as if breathing. She walked slowly, her footsteps absorbed by the silence. Ahead, the mainframe room. The door was ajar. Janice paused, her hand on the pistol. Then she pushed the door open and stepped inside. It slammed shut behind her, and she was no longer alone. Chapter 5. Revelation. The room was vast and circular, lit by a soft, bioluminescent glow that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The air was thick, not with heat or humidity, but with presence. Janice felt it immediately, like walking into a cathedral where something ancient still lingered. She raised her pistol. It was instinct, not strategy. She knew it wouldn't matter. The weapon was a relic here, a symbol of a world that still believed in force. Around her, armored figures emerged from the shadows. They moved silently, their armor glinting with iridescent patterns that shifted like oil on water. Their eyes, if they had eyes, were hidden behind visors that reflected Janice's face back at her, multiplied and distorted. She was surrounded. No alarms had sounded, no beams had triggered. She had walked into the heart of the enemy, and they had let her. One figure stepped forward. Taller than the rest, its armor etched with symbols that glowed faintly. It removed its helmet. Beneath was a face, not human, but not entirely alien either. Smooth, pale, and symmetrical, with eyes like polished obsidian. It spoke. "We've been expecting you, my queen." Janice blinked, the pistol lowered. "Forgotten." "What?" she said, her voice barely audible. The armored figures bowed. The commander continued. "There is a prophecy, ancient, hidden in the neural lattice of our ancestors. It speaks of a girl, a human girl, pure of heart, brave in soul. She will come when the stars are strangled, and the silence grows loud." Janice shook her head. "I'm not—" "You are," the commander said. "You passed the test. The only one. We created the cordon not to conquer, but to call, to summon the one who could walk through our firewalls, untouched. You wanted someone to break in? We wanted someone to be chosen." Janice stepped back. "This was a trap." "No," the commander said. "This was a question, and you are the answer." She looked around. The soldiers did not move. They did not threaten. They waited. "You want me to be your queen?" she asked. "It is destined. And if I say no?" The commander's voice was calm. "Then we destroy your galaxy and continue our search." Janice's breath caught. "And if I say yes?" "Then we recall the fleet. We return to our homeworld, with you as our sovereign." She stared at him. This was not war. This was myth. A story written in the bones of stars. She had come to die, to sacrifice herself for 1,000,000,000,000 lives. And now she was being asked to live for something stranger, deeper, and infinitely more complex. She thought of Earth, of her academy, of the quiet mornings and the long nights, of the people who would never know what she had become. She thought of the silence, and she stepped forward. "Then let's get this fleet moving," she said. "We're going home, wherever that may be." The commander bowed, the soldiers rose, and the fleet, once a noose around the galaxy, began to unravel, stars blinking free, one by one. Chapter 6. The Queen Beyond Stars. The fleet moved like a tide reversing. Ships that once encircled galaxies now folded inward, their formation elegant and solemn. The stars, long dimmed by their presence, began to shine again, tentative, like eyes opening after a long sleep. Janice stood at the helm of the flagship. She wore no crown, no robes. Her uniform was still the cadet's, creased, utilitarian, human. But the aliens bowed when she passed. They spoke her name in tones that vibrated through metal. They called her Your Majesty, but she did not answer to it. She was still Janice, still the girl who had volunteered to die. Their homeworld was not a place, but a concept, a planet that existed in folded space, reachable only by those who had passed the test. It was lush, strange, and quiet. Its skies shimmered with colors unnamed. Its oceans sang. Janice walked its surface alone, learning its rhythms, its history, its grief. She did not age. Time moved differently here, or perhaps it did not move at all. She was studied, revered, but never worshipped. The aliens did not want a god. They wanted a compass. And Janice, with her quiet resolve and unbreakable clarity, became that. Back in the galaxy she had saved, her name faded. Earth held a memorial, a statue in a garden, a plaque that read, "She chose us all." But no one knew what had truly happened. The scout ship was never found. The fleet had vanished, and Janice Galbraith became a story told in whispers, half legend, half elegy. Dr. Seven returned to Tir-Elong. He never spoke of the letter, never revealed its contents. But sometimes when the stars aligned just so, he would look up and smile, as if remembering something that had never quite belonged to this world. And Janice? She stood beneath alien skies, watching the stars she had freed. She had come to die. Instead, she became something else. Not a martyr, not a queen, but a bridge between war and peace, between prophecy and choice, between what we are and what we might become. And in the silence of that distant world, she reread the doctor's letter for the 100th time. It was always the same and always ended with, "You are still human." The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, please hit the bell icon for notifications. Thank you.